5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, stop, collaborate, and listen. Techie Prepper's back with a not brand new. It's an ice maker. Ice, baby. Now, why would I be doing that? I make prepping videos, right? Well, there's a couple different uses for ice, either during or directly after an emergency event or a long-term power outage. And just right off the top of my head, those would be obviously cooling, right? Actually, ingesting ice directly has been shown in studies to lower your core body temperature by 1 or 2 degrees. So if you're getting into the area where you might start getting a heat illness and you want to lower your body temperature, that's a perfect way to do it. And if somebody suffers an injury but can't be treated by medical professionals right away, and maybe you don't have a cold compress or anything on hand, you can make ice, wrap it in a t-shirt, some kind of cloth, and you can use it as a cold compress to reduce swelling or inflammation until that person can be treated. Now, a tertiary use, just for pure comfort, if you're sitting around and you're hot and you're bored and you're waiting for things to clear up, say after a hurricane, you can make yourself some ice, get a bowl, and you can use a fan to blow it over it and cool yourself that way. So that actually goes a long way. It doesn't seem like it's very effective, but believe me, it's like sticking your head in a freezer. It feels good, and it kind of takes your mind off the situation that you're in. So what I'm going to do today is take this out to the workbench, and we're going to hook it up to see how much power it actually uses, just to show you that you can use this type of device to make yourself some ice using either a small inverter generator, a large fossil fuel generator, or even a solar power station. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a solar power station. We're going to get an idea of how much power this draws and how effective it is at actually making ice. So let's go out to the workbench and let's get techie. Spoiler alert, I made ice. This is the time of the video where I ask you to please like the video, subscribe if you like my content, and most importantly, please share the video if you know and or love somebody who may be able to use the information I provide in the video. Okay, so here we are with the Magic Chef Ice Maker. Portable, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the directions to see exactly how this operates. So it tells us to remove the ice scoop, which is pretty cool. Remove the ice basket. I'm going to set those to the side right now. And then we're going to fill this up to the fill line. We'll start with 4 cups. Haven't quite reached it yet. We've got another 4 cups here. Haven't quite reached it yet, so we're going to go ahead and pour a little more in. Okay, we have 8 cups in it so far. Now this is potable water. You want to make sure that you use water that you can drink. The instruction manual actually says tap water is fine, so we're almost to the top of that, the max fill. All right, that's the max fill right there. Basically, we used 10 cups, so it's got a 10 cup capacity. Okay, so we're supposed to plug it in. We're going to plug it into my kilowatt, just so we know how much we're pulling. We're going to do it in the AC first, house outlet, just to make sure that our equipment's going to be able to handle it. So I want to see how much energy this actually pulls. Okay, so now that we have it plugged in, we have our light flashing. That's what the manual says. It says press the power button. Okay, obviously that is not a button, so I'm assuming they mean the on-off. Poor instructions, I guess. Then it says select the large or small ice type. We're going to go with large. Why not? Go big or go home. So how this works essentially is you fill up that reservoir, which we've already done. And what happens is when the cycle starts, the water is pumped up to an upper reservoir, and the cooling rods, for lack of a better term, get to a temperature which freezes the water onto them, and the water continually freezes onto them, and it creates like a stalactite. And then after the process is done, it's timed, right? Depending on if you have small cubes or large cubes,
it's a different time. A shorter time for the small, a longer time for the large. And then the heat exchanger reverses. Those rods will heat up. And then that will release the ice from those rods and dump them into the ice cube tray. And then the cycle will repeat until the ice maker senses there's no more water to be pumped from the reservoir, and it will stop. Now let's see what we're pulling here. It's essentially about 100 watts right now. So we're going to go through a cycle. I'm going to keep tabs on that. And we are going to start our timer. I'm a little bit late, but we'll add a minute onto it. It'll give us a rough estimate of how much time it takes to actually create ice. One thing to make clear, I realize I missed it. Once you fill the reservoir with your water, make sure you put the ice basket back in, or your ice will just recycle down into the water reservoir, eventually melt, and the cycle will continue endlessly. So you want to make sure you put your ice basket in. I almost forgot to do that because honestly this is not my unit. I borrowed it from a friend in hopes that I would try it out, see if I liked it, and maybe buy my own. So at about the 6-minute mark, we got a few ice cubes. So we are just going to sit here and wait till we get some ice dropping out of this so I can show it to you. And we have ice. I see the tray come back down. Just going to scoop it up and push it over into our tray. Awesome. So the first cycle took about 6 minutes, set to large ice cubes, and it produced about 3 or 4 cubes. Now we're at the 13-minute mark, and the second cycle produced about 10 ice cubes, which shows that the probes actually had to cool down during the first cycle. So being it is timed, it didn't allow as many ice cubes to form. So now that it's cooled down at a pretty good constant low temperature, and the amount of ice should improve for each cycle. So, okay, so now we have an understanding of how this works, and it appears as if it only uses a little over 100 watts during the entire cycle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of my favorite power stations. I'll put the link to this below too. This thing rocks, man. It's like the sweet spot for price and size and performance. So anyways, let's go ahead and get it started. We'll power it on. Should be 99 or 100%. And we'll turn our AC on to enable our outlets. We will plug our ice maker in. We have our flashing power light. Per our instructions, we hit the on-off button, and I'm going to select small cubes this time. You can hear the pump going. That means the water from the lower reservoir is filling up the top to allow for the ice formation. Now let's see what we're using here. That pump was using literally, it wasn't even registering. The wattage it was pulling was so small, that pump must be like a little 5-watt pump or something. I don't know, but that was crazy. But you saw we spiked when the compressor first started. It spiked to about 200, and now it's settled back down to about the 100 to 110. So we're going to go ahead and let this cycle and make some more ice. There we go. So in this instance, we made small cubes on our portable power station, and it handled it no problem. So it appeared to take about a minute less to make the small cubes versus the large cubes. I don't see that as a big disparity. So, depending on your taste, I guess, if you like small or large, it doesn't really matter as far as time is concerned, unless you're trying to save a little bit of energy. You only have so much capacity in your battery bank, or you don't want to use that much on a generator. But it's minuscule, so I think that boils down to just your taste in ice cubes. So, in summary, we were able to successfully make ice not bad. And we were able to do it at a very low power draw, which works well for us in an emergency or after an emergency where we don't have a lot of power available to us, right? We're counting on a generator of some sort. So as far as the power consumption, what I found was during the average cycle, it used about 100 to 110 watts continuous. When the compressor would kick on to cool down the probes, it would hit 200 to 220 for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and then it would settle back down to that 100. So very good power consumption. It beat my expectations, made good ice, and I'm very happy with it.
So now that we've tested this thing, we've shown that it makes ice pretty quickly, and it doesn't take a whole lot of power. So I'm really impressed with this. I'm going to give this back to the neighbor that I borrowed it from, and I'm actually going to buy one myself to have on hand. You know, there are uses that I mentioned earlier. You can use it for first aid reasons, and really a bigger thing for me most likely would be for morale boost. I mean, it's nice to have that ice available to cool you down, have a nice cold drink, especially in my situations where I'm dealing with the after events of a hurricane. It's hot, humid. It's nice to have that morale boost of having some nice cold ice to either put on your body or to drink or just chew on ice. I mean, it really helps. So if you're interested in getting one, I'll put a link to this one in the description below, along with a link to some of the power stations that I used and the one that I used in the video. So feel free to check those out if you want. And I'm actually going to use the ice that I made from this to make myself a nice cocktail and enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.